Hey, this is Rick Casale, injury specialist from exercisesforinjuries.com. In today's video, what I wanted to go through is 3 filler exercises to help your squat be better and pain-free. And I'll start with the first exercise and I'll get Jenna to demonstrate. And the first one ends up being for someone that has a difficult time squatting down. So what you can end up doing is lying on the ground and you've removed weight or load, and what you can do is focus on the range of motion in the hip and in the knee. So what you would end up doing here is bringing knees to chest. So bring the knees to the chest. So we're working on the range of motion in the knee and working on range of motion in the hip in an unloaded position. Now when it comes to sets, reps, time, and intensity, we're looking at 1 set. We're looking at repetitions would be 5 repetitions. Time would end up being a smooth controlled movement, and you'd hold this position for a second or two, and then Jenna would release and then move back into it again. So it would be a smooth controlled movement with a good stop, like a good 2 seconds at the end position, coming back down and going into the second repetition. When it comes to intensity, we want to work on the range of motion in the knee, and you might end up feeling it in the hip, that we're working on the hip. Perfect. Now if this ends up being too easy, so this is kind of like a bonus one. This ends up being a 4th exercise, but it's more of a progression to the knees to chest. With this one, what you can end up doing is a happy baby position. So what you're grabbing the feet, you're pulling the knees towards like outside of your shoulders. Now this ends up working less on the knee, but it ends up challenging the hips a lot more. So you're moving the hips into a deeper position so you can end up getting a stronger stretch in that hip position. When it comes to sets, reps, time, and intensity, ends up being the same as knees to chest. So 1 set, 5 repetitions. Time ends up being a smooth controlled movement with a good stop at the end position, so 2 seconds. And the intensity, you should really feel it in your hips. That ends up being a progression. If that's too difficult for you, go with the one before. Now, I'll take a second here to kind of explain and talk about what filler exercises are. Filler exercises are exercises that you can end up putting in between your exercises, specifically your sets. So normally what ends up happening is you end up doing your exercises and then you end up taking a break. So the filler exercises are exercises that you can quickly do between sets, so you're not just sitting there, you're not just standing there, you're not like walking to the drinking fountain. You're actually doing something that's going to help benefit you when it comes to improving your range of motion, preventing injury, allowing you to perform better, and it ends up having a number of benefits. And these are just quick exercises that you can add in. And these 3 with the 1 progression ends up helping when it comes to improving the squat and helping you be pain-free. Now moving to the second filler exercise, this ends up being a bodyweight squat. So squatting down as deep as you can, really trying to focus on dropping the hips down. So you're working on, having maximal range of motion in that hip. Also working on that knee, maximal range of motion in the knee. And then you can also, initially you have your weight shifted back, you're kind of pushing it through your hips. You can also move your weight more forward so that you end up targeting the ankles and you work on loosening up the ankles. Perfect. And you stand up. And then when it comes to sets, reps, time, and intensity, the sets end up being 1, repetitions end up being 5. The time ends up being a smooth controlled movement, and then holding that bottom position for a couple seconds. Minimum 2 seconds, but you can hold it for longer. You can hold it up to like 90 seconds. But being down there for a couple seconds will end up benefiting your hips, knees, and your ankles. When it comes to intensity, it ends up being light. And it depends where you end up having a weakness. So you might end up feeling it more in your hip, knee, or ankle. For the majority of people, it ends up being in their hips they end up feeling it. If they end up having a previous knee injury, they might feel it in their knee, especially if they're missing some range of motion, especially the end range of motion. And if you have tight ankles, you'll end up feeling your ankles. So it depends where you end up feeling it. looking at and moving on to the third one, it's a progression when it comes to the bodyweight squat. So now we're going to add load. So you can grab a plate, you can grab dumbbells, or you can grab some sort of weight, and you're going to go into that deep squat position again. And now what we're really trying to do is work on sitting back in the hips and working on, improving the capsule, so the joint capsule of the hip. We're looking at stretching around that hip area and stretching the muscles and tissues that go around the hip. And you're holding the weight, you can hug it like Jenna's doing it, or you can end up holding your hands out front. Elbows are in between the knees, and you're holding that position. Just like the other one, we focus on the hip, but then she can also shift her weight a little more forward and really trying to keep those heels down, and then we end up targeting the ankle more. Perfect. When it comes to sets, reps, time, and intensity, sets end up being 1, repetitions end up being 5, time ends up being smooth, controlled movement with a good stop at the bottom, so at least 2 seconds, but you can progress it all the way up to 90 seconds. And the intensity ends up being light. Most people end up feeling it in their hips. And just like the other one, sometimes you end up feeling it in your knees and in your ankles. So there you go. Give those 3 filler exercises plus that progression a go in order to help when it comes to allowing you to squat better and to be pain-free. Now, if you suffer from knee pain, what I recommend you do is click right here. I have a brand new free report called 5 Tricks That Fight Knee Pain and Tightness. Click right here, let me know where to send that report, and I'll send you that report right away. If you're watching this on a mobile device, tablet, smartphone, head down below in the description and click the first link, which will end up being exercisesforinjuries.com/knees. Let me know where to send the report, and I'll send you the report right away. Now, if you got benefit from this video, make sure to hit like. If you have any questions or comments for me, leave it down below in the comment section. And lastly, hit subscribe to get future pain relieving videos.